Hi, I'm Anna and I love creating little art dolls, and today I'm gonna sculpt a tiny posable bear because spring is here and it felt like the perfect time to do this since hibernation season is now over for bears and for me. So first, let's create the skull with tinfoil. I usually make a quick sketch before starting just to figure out what I'm going for, but let me tell you, I was so excited about this one that I jumped straight into sculpting. I already had a pretty clear image in mind of what I was going for, a kind of children's book mother bear character, but as a doll. So yeah, I just went for it. After covering the base with a layer of polymer clay and smoothing it, I started creating a small triangular shape for the muzzle. I decided to add more volume around the neck to make the bear appear fluffier. For the eyes, at first I thought I might have made them too small because I wanted the bear to look cute and perhaps bigger eyes would have accentuated that cuteness. But honestly, I think it's already really cute with small eyes, and I don't know, bigger ones might have been too much. And also, while shaping her eyes, I really tried to give her a kind and gentle expression. I also added some clay to create a sort of brow ridge. I'm not sure if it's called this way for bears, but I noticed it's really pronounced. Because yeah, for the face, I used a bunch of reference pictures from different angles to make it as accurate as possible, and it really helped me a lot. I'd never really noticed this before, but while sculpting the face, I realized that bears actually look a lot like dogs. I mean, except for the ear shape and maybe the fact that their faces are a bit rounder, the muzzle, the eyes, and even the skull shape are really similar to dogs like, I don't know, golden retrievers, for instance. After refining the shape of the muzzle and the forehead, my bear was still lacking some fluffiness and full cheeks to make it look really friendly. I decided that her name would be Olga, and she absolutely loves honey and jam. I gave her a big nose so she can smell all the flowers in her garden because she loves gardening. She picks all kinds of flowers and she makes syrups and jam out of them. Also, when she makes too much, she shares it with her friendly neighbors, and her favorite neighbor happens to be a really funny raven who always looks super busy and serious. I was also careful to keep the ears thick enough because I really didn't want them to break like that one time when I was sculpting a llama. And yeah, I definitely have trust issues now when it comes to sculpting the ears, so I attached them very carefully using a bit of liquid clay. To create the fur texture, I used a really small dotting tool and I started carving lots of tiny lines. I used to use a needle tool, but I noticed that the dotting tool creates fewer little bits of excess clay and it gives just smoother lines, which I prefer. Then I tried to remove the excess clay and smooth the surface a bit using almond oil. Honestly, I'm not even sure how much it helped, but it does look a little better after applying it, I think. Oh, look! Here you can see me creating 1,000 little claws and paw pads that I'll end up not even using. What a blast! To give a little more life to our little Olga, it's time to paint her face. I used acrylic paint and start with a brown base coat. And then to add more realism to her face, I lightened the area around her muzzle and I used a darker shade of brown to add depth to the fur on some parts of her face. Why are her eyes so scary at this point? And why am I only noticing it while editing? To seal the paint, I used a satin glue varnish, which is sort of like Mod Podge, but it turned out shinier than I wanted. So yeah, does anyone know a varnish for polymer clay that actually looks matte and not shiny at all? That would be really useful because I'd rather have the fur look matte instead of shiny. However, for the eyes, it's really useful because it makes them look really glossy if I add a lot of varnish. The skeleton was made of aluminum wire and I slightly adjusted the proportions I usually use, and yeah, I made her a bit taller because duh, she's a bear. And I also gave her shorter legs so her body would look more bear-like. I also borrowed some weirdly shaped yarn from my mom, which I thought would be perfect to create the body, and I just twisted it around the skeleton several times. It was trickier than usual since some parts of the yarn were thick and others were just a thread, so it was hard to make everything even and to avoid bumps. Does anyone know what this type of yarn is usually used for? Because I've never seen it before and I have no clue what's the use for this yarn. So yeah, I'm really curious if anyone knows. Then it was time for the clothes, which, as you know, if you watched some other videos, is kind of what I fear the most. But this time, I found it surprisingly easier than usual. I don't know if I'm just getting a little better at sewing or not, but yeah, I really surprisingly enjoyed sewing the clothes. So using recycled floral fabric, I started by cutting 2 rectangles to make a sweatshirt, and then I cut out the shape of the neck and the arms, and I also cut 2 other rectangles for the sleeves, which I trimmed thinner on one side. I hate over sewing because it's annoying, awful, and repetitive. So instead, I just use Mod Podge, which prevents the fabric from unraveling, and it's literally a lifesaver. I added some lace at the end of the sleeves because Olga is a very distinguished lady and she loves delicate details on her clothes. So yeah, it seemed appropriate. At first, when I wanted to close the sleeves, I started sewing without really knowing what I was doing, and then I realized it looked really bad. The stitches were messy and very visible, so I just watched a proper tutorial, like I should have done from the beginning, and I discovered the ladder stitch. With the ladder stitch, all of your problems will disappear, and my problems, I mean visible stitches. I don't know why it took me so much time to discover how to do this, and it's a little embarrassing, but yeah, I am proud to say, without exaggerating at all, that it truly, deeply, and fundamentally changed my life forever and radically transformed the way I perceive the world. Plus, I don't know why I assumed that it would be something really hard to do when it's actually so easy. So yeah, this was a revolutionary discovery for me, the ladder stitch. To create the overalls, I roughly took the measurements of the legs and then created a sort of pattern for each side of the jeans. And then I cut an old pair of denim overalls of mine, so yeah, it has come full circle. I attached the different parts together and added some details, and I also cut fabric to create little pockets, suspenders, and the front piece of the overalls. And yeah, I just brought everything together. For the overalls, I wanted to do some fabric patches, and I was really hesitating between a few different fabrics with different patterns. I'm still not sure that the patterns I chose are the best one. I don't know, I feel like I don't really have a pattern that would go really well with the top. Maybe the yellow is a little too much, but I kind of like it. Maybe I should have used this one instead of the yellow. I don't know. It's so hard to make choices. So I'm just passing a loose thread through the ribbon to make a ruffled, I think that's the word, a ruffled color, and I love how it looks. I tried to create some glasses, but they were really shaky, and I wasn't convinced by how they turned out. So instead of putting them on her face, I decided they would just stay in Olga's pocket. Now that was the honest reason why her glasses are in her pocket. Now the official reason is that Olga's eyesight was really good when she was younger, but over the years she started having a little trouble seeing up close, so she needs her glasses to pick up tiny flowers in her enchanted forest and things like that, but she struggles to wear them on a daily basis because they're not comfortable and she's not used to them. So she'd rather keep them in her pocket than on her muzzle. which is an explanation that makes total sense. I made some coffee with very little water and a lot of coffee, and I'm going to use this to try to create some mud at the bottom of the jeans. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I really hope that it's not gonna look weird. I hope it doesn't look too much like poop, because I'm not completely happy with how the coffee color turned out. So yeah, please tell me, do you think it looks like mud, or does it look like something else? Thank you for your honest answers, because I'm a little skeptical about the result myself. I also wanted Olga to have a little flower in her front pocket, so I experimented and tried to create one out of tissue paper. And so using water-based markers, I colored the paper and then added water to blend the colors into the tissue. And once it dried, I wrapped and glued the green part around a short aluminum wire to create the stem. And then I made yellow petals and I assembled everything together. Now Olga is finally ready to go live her peaceful life in the woods.